It was a dark and creepy night. Welcome to the Halloween special edition of Storytime with Jocelyn. And we are going to be reading It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. So let us begin with Storytime with Jocelyn. And it's our special edition for Halloween. So let us begin. We're going to, like I said, read It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. And it is by Charles M. Schulz, as we all know, and it's based on the animated special, and the text was adapted by Maggie Testa, and it illustrated by Vicki Scott. Let us begin. It was a special time of year. The air felt brisk and cool. Like outside, it is a windy evening. The colorful leaves fell from the trees, and the pumpkins were ready to be picked. It was fall. And for Linus, Lucy, Snoopy, and Charlie Brown, that meant Halloween was almost here. Sorry, I dropped my little book light. It also meant football. One afternoon, Lucy approached Charlie Brown. "I'll hold the ball. You come running and kick it," she said sweetly. But Charlie Brown shook his head. He knew that Lucy was up to. He knew. "You just want me to come running up to kick that ball so you can pull it away and see me land flat on my back. This time you can trust me," said Lucy. She held out a piece of paper. "See, here's a signed document testifying that I promise not to pull it away." He felt excited. This year, he was really going to kick that football. Charlie Brown got a running start, but as usual, Lucy pulled the ball away as he got close. "Ah!" cried Charlie Brown as he flew into the air. "Particular thing about that document," said Lucy. "It was never notarized." Meanwhile, Linus was busy with his own fall tradition. He was writing his annual letter to the Great Pumpkin. "Dear Great Pumpkin," Linus began, "I am looking forward to your arrival on Halloween night. I hope you will bring me lots of presents." Charlie Brown was curious. "Who are you writing to?" he asked. Linus smiled, and then he explained, "This is the time of the year to write to the Great Pumpkin. On Halloween night, the Great Pumpkin rises out of his pumpkins patch, and he flies through the air with a bag of toys for all the children." Kind of sounds like Christmas, don't you think? What do you think, Jocelyn? Charlie Brown just shook his head as he walked away. Even Snoopy laughed as he walked away. Good grief. That looks like Charlie Brown's good grief face. Linus kept on writing. Soon his sister Lucy came by. "Not again," Lucy complained over his shoulder. "Writing a letter to a pumpkin? You make me laughing stock of the neighborhood." But Linus still wrote. Everyone tells me you are a fake, but I believe in you. A little while later, Sally walked over. She wanted to know what Linus was doing. Linus told her all about the great pumpkin. Would you like to sit with me in the pumpkin patch on Halloween night and wait for the great pumpkin? I'd love to, Linus, said Sally. I think someone's in love. Ooh. Finally, Linus was finished writing his letter, and now, how do you think you're going to mail that letter? Lucy asked. You can't possibly reach the mailbox, and I'm not going to help you. But Linus had an idea. He used his blanket like a lasso to open the mailbox, and then he tossed the letter in. Nothing could stop him from sending his letter to the great pumpkin. As Linus went proudly back inside, Charlie Brown came running up to Lucy. I got an invitation to a Halloween party. Charlie Brown told her. He did a happy dance. Yee! It's the first time I've ever been invited to a party. Lucy frowned. If you got an invitation, it was a mistake. There were 2 lists, one to invite and one not to invite. You must have been put on the wrong list. But Charlie Brown didn't care what Lucy said. He had his invitation and he was going to the Halloween party. Sorry about the delay. Soon, it was Halloween night. The kids all changed into their costumes for trick-or-treating. Lucy was a witch. Sally was a ghost. She was afraid of her own costume. Charlie Brown was also a ghost. But he had a little trouble with the scissors. Pigpen was a ghost, but a very dirty one. Even Snoopy had dressed up. He was a World War I flying ace. Now I've heard everything, explained Lucy. As Snoopy's marched in a different direction, the little group hurried off to start trick-or-treating. They soon ran into Linus in the pumpkin patch. Have you come to sing pumpkin carols? He asked them. You're going to miss all the fun just like last year, Lucy told him. But Linus didn't care. He knew the great pumpkin was on his way to the pumpkin patch. You really think he'll come? Sally asked. As everyone left to go trick-or-treating, she was torn. Should she go with them or stay with Linus? Sally decided to stay. I'm glad, said Linus. You'll see the great pumpkin with your own eyes. Each year, the great pumpkin rises out of the pumpkin patch that he thinks is the most sincere. He's got to pick this one. I don't see how a pumpkin patch could be more sincere than this one. Meanwhile, the other kids had arrived at their first house of the night. Trick or treats! they cried. One by one, candy was thrown into their bags. Can I have an extra piece of candy for my brother? Lucy asked. He couldn't come with us, 'cause he's sitting in a pumpkin patch waiting for the great pumpkin. Right, Jocelyn? The kids compared what they got. I got 5 pieces of candy, said Lucy. I got a chocolate bar, said Violet. I got a quarter, said Schroeder. I got a rock, said Charlie Brown. Soon everyone's bags were filled with candy except Charlie Brown's. His bag was filled with rocks, but he didn't let that get him down. It was time to go to the Halloween party. Right, Jocelyn? On the way, Violet wondered where Snoopy, the World One flying geist, had gone. He's probably getting ready to take off on the next dawn patrol, answered Charlie Brown. Soon the group passed by the pumpkin patch. Has the great pumpkin been by? Taunted Violet. You think you're so smart, Solly called, as the laughing group continued along. He'll be here. You can bet on it. Sally turned to Linus. All right, where is he? He'll be here, Linus assured her. I hope so, said Sally. Just think of all the fun we're missing at the Halloween party. They're missing all the fun, Jocelyn. Do you think the great pumpkin's going to show up? Huh? Across town, the Halloween party was in full swing. There were games and music and pumpkins to decorate. Violet, Patty, and Lucy wanted to draw the perfect face on their pumpkin. But how would they know what to draw on it? You'll have to model for us, Violet told Charlie Brown. You'll be the perfect model, agreed Patty. Charlie Brown felt honored. He sat down on the stool. Violet turned him around, and that's when he realized he wanted to use the back of his head as a model for the pumpkin. Ugh. Next, it is time to bob for apples. Lucy went first. This is the way to do it. She stuck her head in the barrel, came up with an apple. And Snoopy! Blackie, she cried. My lips touched the dog! Ah! Snoopy danced along while Schroeder played the piano. Then he figured it was time to continue on his journey as the World War I flying ace. He sniffed his way to the pumpkin patch. Sally was just about fed up. Where was this great pumpkin? Linus tried to reassure her. Just think, Sally, when the great pumpkin rises out of the pumpkin patch, we'll be here to see it. All of a sudden, Linus heard a voice. What's that? He asked. He watched as a dark figure appeared in the pumpkin patch. There he is! It's the great pumpkin! Linus shouted. He was so excited. That Does that look like the Great Pumpkin? I think that looks a little bit like Snoopy. What do you think, Jocelyn? When Linus awoke, Sally was waiting for him. What happened? Linus asked. What did the Great Pumpkin leave us? Did he leave us any toys? Sally couldn't contain her frustration any longer. I was robbed, she shouted. I spent the whole night waiting for the Great Pumpkin when I could have been out for trick-or-treats. Halloween is over and I missed it. She shouted at Linus. You kept me up all night waiting for the Great Pumpkin. And all that came was a beagle. As Sally left, Linus called after her. It won't be long now, he said. If the Great Pumpkin comes, I'll still put in a good word for you. Linus gasped. He said, if. Was he starting to doubt the Great Pumpkin too? The hours ticked by. After a while, Linus fell asleep. He was shivering under his blanket when Lucy came out to get him in the very early hours of the morning and tucked him into bed. Ah. Later that day, Charlie Brown and Linus met up. Well, another Halloween has come and gone, said Charlie Brown. I don't understand it. I went trick-or-treating, and all I got was a bag full of rocks. Charlie Brown looked at his friend. I suppose you spent all night in the pumpkin patch and the Great Pumpkin never showed up. Nope, said Linus. Don't take it too hard, Linus, said Charlie Brown. I've done a lot of stupid things in my life, too. Linus frowned his brows. Stupid? What do you mean, stupid, Jocelyn? Just wait till next year. Charlie Brown, you'll see. Next year, I'll find a pumpkin patch that is really sincere. And I'll sit in that pumpkin patch until the Great Pumpkin appears. The end. Just you wait, Charlie Brown. And that is the end of our story. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, and our Halloween special edition. I hope you enjoyed it. Jocelyn sure did. She's ready for bedtime. And I hope y'all have a safe and a happy Halloween. And make sure you let your parents check your candy. And have a good time. And don't scare anybody. Bye. God bless. Story time.